This is a method that we've been using for basically since the inception of SHP, but it's really become more refined the last couple of years. We have a course, 4-hour video course that every single one of our SHP team members takes and needs to go through a test and role plays before they're released into some sample campaigns for our clients. But this is something that we've made available to the public as well, and I think is very useful because there's a lot of really amazing advice and guidance about cold calling out there. I think what we're trying to do is establish a couple different frameworks or structures to a cold call that might not be seen as much because with our business, we're calling in almost every industry out there. So what that does is enables us to kind of refine what that human to human conversation actually is and what parts are the sales conversation versus where do we input, product or service knowledge. So in other words, regardless of what industry you're calling from, an industry you're calling into, you'll have a way and options to talk to people in that 0 to 1 process. For instance, if you are calling from a digital marketing company into auto mechanics, that might be a different script than, say, SaaS into education. Completely different type of conversation, right? If you're talking to a auto mechanic owner who's underneath the truck versus an administrator of a school district in an office, there's 2 completely different conversation structures. So we've kind of laid those out and wanted to take a minute to go over those today. We're going to probably go do a few of these so we can go deeper into some examples, but I wanted to give at least the 3 frameworks that we use here at SHP that are have been kind of identified by the H2H method. But just as a refresher, we have something called the trust umbrella because this kind of overlays everything that we do in a cold call. So you see, the idea of a cold call is to build trust, but then there's some things that fall underneath what that means. It's pretty out there. It's pretty subjective. So how do we drill it down and make it practical to a cold call? Because cold calls need to be very exact in order for them to work, right? So what are some of the main strategies? Well, the idea is the goal of a call is to spark interest in what you do, your product or service, and to what we call diffuse the salesperson's stigma. So that's based upon something we call modern sales failure. So there's a stigma against people because of poor sales ethics from a past era and because of the rise of the cold call is dead. Lastly, it's sell the next step. And that's the idea that we're trying to get across when we're on the phone. We want to not sell the product or service yet, but the next step. So as long as those things are being accomplished, we're going to have a successful call structure in the 21st century. So what we've created is a more tactical definition of the strategy called the 4CX4. And the 4CX4 are 4 components of a call that can be kind of switched around and moved around based upon the industry that you're calling into or industry you're calling from. So we have the quick prop, the hone in, the calling prop, the next steps. The quick prop is really just an introductory statement. The hone in is a calculated discovery question that gets for multiple purposes that we go through in this course, but really to get the person talking and to find out more about them. The calling prop is your value, your opportunity to really share and shine. And then lastly is the next step. So identifying what you're trying to accomplish for the next step. So using these tools that we've discussed, we can talk a little bit about the frameworks. And this is just an introductory. So we have 3 primary frameworks. We have the consultative conversation, the no bull script, and the survey. So the consultative conversation is more of that probably B2B as well as folks who are at a desk or behind a computer that have more time to talk and usually are able to get into a conversation. This is probably the most optimal script that we're going to want to use because, the idea is the longer that we have to talk with them, the better chance we have of converting. And lastly, secondly is no bull script. This is when you're talking to people who either are in a rush, are in a saturated marketplace, right? Or just don't typically have much time to speak anyway. We need to get the point across quickly and ask the next steps. And then if they double back into objections, then we can provide more value after. And then lastly is the survey. The point of the survey is that for some marketplaces, it's best to see if use the goal of trying to qualify the individual or the company before actually setting up an appointment. So what this can do is it can draw interest because the prospect is curious about what you're going to do with information if you're just questioning them. But also it kind of gives a little bit of, that VIP club feel, right? Where you have to qualify and have special requirements in order to be a part of it. And that can create some demand too. So the idea of that script is more of an introductory, a process of questioning and gathering information and then identifying what to do next. So these are the three main script frameworks. And if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me. I'm happy to walk through any one of these in more detail. And if you'd like to wait, we'll be doing more of these videos on each one of these script frameworks that you can use in whatever industry that you're in.